Okay, let's try it again. We got a copyright strike the last time. I thought fair use would, get it taken care of, but I guess I'm surprised it went on that long, to be honest. I'm surprised they didn't slap me down sooner. So let me just wait till some people get in here before we continue. But yeah, I guess it was too good to be true. Something had to give. Yeah, yeah. So I don't know how I was talking for a while too, for I realized from the chat that I was cut off. So yeah, but I was just saying like yeah, when I saw like did you guys see the church scene or did it cut off before the church scene? But basically if you saw the church scene, I just felt like he saw Alfonso Ribeiro and Tatiana Ali just have a great scene where they were getting props and he just had to get in there and do something to put the attention back on himself. And I feel there's a lot of insecurity that kind of shows in his performance a lot. Like a lot of times he's because I feel like Aunt Viv, dark skin Aunt Viv, she's effort, she's great. Like I forgot how good Janet Hubert was. Like that scene where she does the dance. Oh, she killed it. I mean, she's a great singer too. Like she's a great performer. Uncle Phil, he kills it. He's great. Alfonso Ribeiro's great. Uh Karen Parsons is very underrated. I think uh her Hillary is very very underrated. She's great. And Tatiana Ali I think even gets pretty good when she gets her the Giver Born to Do. Yeah, but I think Tatiana Ali does some pretty good stuff as well. And I think Will Smith was good in the beginning. I think in the beginning he was legitimately good, but when he started feeling himself and getting comfortable, ironically enough, I think the comfort started getting really bad. Like he would not have committed to the bit like that in the first season. But by then, he's really feeling his superstardom and he is just letting it all hang out and it's not serving him. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So oh yeah, Jazz is pretty good too. Jeffrey's good too. Yeah, they're all great. And I think if he stayed where he was the first season, he would have been great. But he is very, I think, insecure. Like he wants to live up to this. I think in the way the stardom, maybe he felt was undeserved and he needed to prove that he deserved it. And he felt like, he was gonna lose what he got and he didn't expect to get it. But yeah, there's just a desperation. It's a total flop sweat energy, but it's like a cognitive dissonance that you get because it's flop sweat energy, but people are clapping and cheering, and it's just very kind of jarring to me. And I wondered, did they really think this is funny? But then when I think about it, I'm like, actually, a lot of these people are probably white. They probably do think it's funny. Like white people laugh at a lot of stuff black people do that other black people be like, why do white people think this is so funny? I noticed that like a lot. Uh, Oh wait, so I had actually come back in the other stream. That's interesting. I just stopped it because I thought that it was gone for good. But yeah, but anyway, I feel like there is uh when I was bringing up on Colin, I was saying that I feel like there's a demonic people pleaser energy in Will Smith's performances and a please love me, please fill in some void that I need filled in. Please do it for me. I'm counting on you to do that for me. I feel that to his performance, and it makes me uncomfortable. I don't really. I feel like I'm watching somebody's negative psychology play out, and I feel like laughing at it would be like being an enabler. And I know Will Smith mostly from his movie energy, and I feel like movie Will Smith doesn't quite have that same level of desperation and flop sweatness. You know what I mean? Even though now that I noticed it from the sitcom, I think if I watch the movies now, I might maybe see it more. But when I was watching that and I was having those thoughts about, you know, how desperate it seems and how it makes me uncomfortable, like, watching him a lot of times. I'd rather watch someone else. I'd rather watch the other people more times than want to watch him, because they're just being professionals and giving it just enough while he is reeking of desperation. But after I said that, some people shared something that was interesting to me. Someone shared with me something after the slap where they said, "Hey, after you said what you said on Colin about his desperation and flop sweat, I found this clip that I think proves you right." And someone sent me this. And the reason I want to do it again on YouTube is because I feel like the visuals carry it more. Like when you see like that, um church scene and everything. Um Yeah, and it's true. Will Smith's crying scenes, I think, are the best. I think he was good when he cried his Uncle Phil, and when he got Carlton high by accident. I think that's actually a better crying scene than the one for his from his dad's. It's kind of underrated. But check out this thing, and I think it says a lot. Someone put, once again thinking about the intense fragility of Will Smith's mind, tragic. And
Friend cheated on
look
me.
at this clip.
Oh. And I remember that when I was 15 years old, my first girlfriend cheated on me. Oh. And I remember making a decision that nobody would ever cheat on me again. And the way I was going to do that is by being the biggest actor on earth. Huh. Right. So there's been this weird psychology that I've always felt like if my movies are number one, my life is going to work out great. Huh. And like so when I was 15 years old.
So if my new movies are number one, my life will work out great. And I think, that is very much a sign of um oh, so anyway, I got a message on what happened. Apparently YouTube does this thing. They told me to do a copyright strike where they will do a copyright strike, but when you stop streaming the copyrighted material, they will re-enable your live stream. So I guess that's what happened. That's new to me. They used to just kill the whole live stream. But so basically I stopped it for nothing. But I guess good to know. I just got that message. Really annoying, but hey, whatever. Um yeah, so I was like, whoa. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. And then I read another quote from Will Smith, and it said this was an article about Will Smith, and he shared this story in a positive way a lot. Um, but had an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, and he talks about a conversation he had with his manager James Lasseter early in his career. And Lasseter produced a bunch of Will Smith's films, including Ali, I, Robot, and Hancock. And he calls him JL. And this is what he said to Hollywood Reporter. He's like, I said to JL, I want to be the biggest movie star in the world, Smith said. So he just aimed, I'm going to be the biggest movie star in the world. And James Lasseter said, okay, well, let's figure out what that means. And he went and got the top 10 movies of all time. The list of the top 10 movies of all time at the box office, top 10 box office successes. And we both looked at them, adjusted for inflation and views versus dollar value. So they did all this math, the amount of views per dollar value and all that. And we looked at all the different variations, and then they boiled it down to a formula. Smith and Lasseter found that the highest grossing films share three major elements. What we found is at the center, there were always special effects, said Smith. So it was always special effects. There were always creatures, and then there was always a love story. So we started looking for movies that had special effects, creatures, and a love story. And if you think about it, it's like, but he didn't say this, but I think he also had a fourth thing, right? All the big stars of blockbusters always occasionally do an artsy or emotional or grounded film to cement that they're also an actor and to win Oscars. And I think that's why he did Ali, Pursuit of Happiness, and things like 7 Pounds. He doesn't say that in the Hollywood Reporter thing, but that's what I came up with because those don't fit into the formula. But it looks like so. It seems like my guess is 3 out of 4, 3 or 4 out of 5 movies are the blockbuster love story and uh, special effects and creatures. Then your occasional time to get serious movie. And that I think also kind of shows what I'm talking about. But the guy has no kind of core values, really. He doesn't have a defined self. He doesn't. I mean, to me, this answer to the whole demonic idea. I'm like, okay, so this guy didn't say, hey, this is what I want to say. This is how I feel. This is what I want to say with my acting. This is whatever. It's just like, what do I need to be loved? What do I need to uh be loved by the most people possible? And let me reverse engineer it. Do I have to be Damon Wayans from A Living Color? Let me be that. Do I have to be Martin? Everyone's loving Martin now. Let me be that. Hey, look at Alfonso Ribeiro and Tatiana Ali just killed this scene. Um, can I do something to get that same love? Let me just do this ridiculous screaming bit while throwing the Martinisms to boot on top of that, Um, and then he's like, okay, I want to be an actor. How do I not how can I be the best actor I can be? How can I be the biggest, most loved actor? Let me just study other people and just do what they do. There's no actual core values, what I want to say. There is just like this, and that's what I say when I say he reminds me of my friend that would just have a different identity every, month, Uh so yeah, I just find that just kind of fascinating. I think Obama kind of has that energy too, but I just want to be whatever I have to be loved. But he doesn't flop sweat. But yeah, there's a lot of that flop sweat I think comes from that. But a lot of white people, they'll like a black guy that does that flop sweat. They like that craziness. Um yeah, but yeah, and the white people are kind of looking at him funny in that clip with the cheating thing. But I think there's something called egocentric. Egocentric is when somebody believes that their dysfunctions are actually cool and a positive trait and something that serves them. And what psychologists will say is that um, people's whose flaws are viewed egocentrically are the hardest people to treat. Like, I'll give an example. Like, say someone who's like a raging bitch with um drama issues, maybe has histrionic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, has tempestuous short lasting relationships. But if you talk to her about it, she'll be like, yeah, I'm a sweetheart, when you first meet me, but if you treat me wrong, I'll be the biggest bitch you ever met. And they've made it as in, like, I'm a fighter. Like, I will take off my earrings and my shoes and I will fight. And they've created this positive narrative around being a bitch. And it's hard to make them change because they've framed it in such a positive way. It's something that they become invested in as what makes them great. So now that's when people say, oh, people have to get to rock bottom before they have to change. Like, um, that's called becoming ego dystonic. When your flaws are ego dystonic, that means that made you view these traits as something that's hurting you. And one of the challenges about therapy and psychology is changing people's views of their flaws from ego syntonic to ego dystonic, because usually it's make it ego dystonic for it to change. And what I find interesting about Will Smith is all these flaws, these desire to be loved, the flop sweat, the desperation for applause, the empty void, the unresolved childhood trauma that he's hoping hyper accomplishment will make up for. uh he's hoping, like, he's framed all of that ego syntonically. He thinks That's what makes him awesome, you know? And I'll give you and a lot of people, go along with it. And I'll give you an example. Hold on. And I'll be honest, I used to believe it too. I used to like the thing I'm going to show you, I used to think was super inspirational. Now it disturbs me and is a cry for help. But check out this.
And that you are on this path to becoming a legend yourself in this business. So when I see Will Smith saying, I am legend, I'm thinking, this is Will Smith. I am legend. You are really becoming an iconic figure. What do you make of that?
It's what my grandmother told me I had to do. I was sitting with to Tyrese a couple weeks ago. Just coming off the Transformers with him, just talk, just about the business and just trying to really just he and I get on the same wavelength, so I could be of some assistance if I can. And there's a concept that I don't want to be an icon. I want to be an idea. I want to represent an idea. I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent magic, right? That you're in a universe and 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 only equals 4 if you accept that 2 + 2 = 4. 2 + 2 is going to be what I want it to be.
Now, see, what he's talking about is delusion. He's talking about he's going to redefine reality, but which is, I think, very interesting. Like, that's not good to be delusional. He's just gonna disregard, reality, and he thinks he can just will, no pun intended, himself into omnipotence. This is a will to omnipotence. This is a type of narcissism. That's how narcissists think. I think he might be something maybe of a compensatory narcissist. That's a narcissist who's very fragile and is trying to like the narcissism is very fragile. It's not like as strong as the more predatory natural narcissist.
And there's a redemptive power that making a choice has, rather than feeling like you're at effect to all the things that are happening.
This is somebody who wants to fight impotence at all. He's still that 15-year-old who got cheated on, and he thinks that he can just, and what this term of psychology for it, this is mania. This is mania. He has to hype himself up with mania to keep the void at bay. And I feel like that's what I was feeling in his performance in Fresh Prince. That was making me very uncomfortable as I was going through the show. Like, I liked the show, but he was ironically the part that was, even though it's his show, he's the part that was kind of making me uncomfortable. Like, they used to call it manic depression before they called it bipolar. I'm not saying he's bipolar. I have no idea. But the word mania stands for the manic part of manic depression. Mania is when the bipolar person is floating and feels like a top of the world, and when they can't maintain that level of mania, they drop to the depressive. So the manic depressive has to stay manic to stave off the depressive. And I think he's created a very egocentric, alluring narrative to make himself think that this condition is dope and a sign of his strength. But the problem with this is if you can't maintain the fuel for this mania, which is what those number one movies are, and it's like a drug. And it's interesting. He says he needs a number one hit, and his sick psychology is what he says. And he knows on some level. He says to those white people on the panel, I have a sick psychology. And he's saying it like in a cool way, but he says sick. So on some level, he knows, even though he's acting like he thinks it's dope, he knows something's off with it. And if he has a hit, he'll never be cheated on again. He'll never be, anything. And he's talked about his issues with his father and how his father kind of made him feel like crap. So I think the father has something to do with it. But he's addicted to narcissistic supply. And it's kind of funny because he says he needs a hit, but that it's like a double entendre. It's a play on words. He needs a hit, as in a hit movie, but the hit is a hit. And I'm gonna say it again: the hit is a hit. The hit movie is a hit of a drug. The hit is a hit. I'm gonna say that again. Think about it. The hit is a hit. His hit movies are his drug hit. That's what he needs. And if he can't get that hit, meaning a hit movie, and also meaning the movie as a hit of a drug, that drug being fame, adulation, he goes through withdrawal. And I feel like he was somebody in withdrawal. And when you're in withdrawal, you're not in your right mind. And I think that's what we saw. We saw Will Smith in withdrawal. He's on the verge of getting another hit that he's been waiting for a long time. If he gets that Oscar, that's gonna be he's like waiting for his hit of heroin for a couple of years now, and that's gonna be and right at the moment he was about to get the hit and getting ready, he's already in withdrawal, so he's antsy. He's just waiting for that drug to come, and that drug addict right at that moment they give him a gut punch and take away some of they pull the drug a little farther away, like that little emasculating moment, that whatever, and he flipped out. But when he got his drug again, he was relaxed. He saw when he got that Oscar, the crisis was over, and now he can kind of act normal, and he's high now. He's fine. They show him dancing at the party later. He's bubbles. He's dancing. You know what I mean? Yeah, fiending. He was fiending for his drug when Chris Rock did what he did. And you don't fuck with an addict in withdrawal at that moment, especially when he's feeling that drug dangling in front of him, that reminder of his, like, that emasculating moment, brings back the exact feelings that he is chasing the drug for. Like, I think that moment, maybe looking at Jada, maybe being reminded of all the other jokes, Jada's face, it reminded him of all the exact triggers that he is addicted to the drug to forget. So the combination of not having had the drug for a while, having it dangling away from him, and he might not even get it tonight. He's on pins and needles waiting for it, and then on top of that, the exact kind of thing that triggers his need for the drug happens to him. Right in withdrawal. It's yeah. I mean, it's this is something to it too. Like, maybe emotionally unavailable people that he can chase. That once he catches up to it, that this is deep, and a lot of people are like this. A lot of people, if they were raised with somebody who was emotionally withholding, a lot of times they want to find other emotionally withholding people too, so they can replay that drama, but this time get it right. But at the same time, the paradox of it is they're comfortable with that dynamic. So, like Isaac says, if he catches up to it, if he would know what to do with it. Like, he could probably get any woman and have her fawn over him, whatever. But there is a part of him that um, those women don't represent his father. Those women don't represent the 15-year-old girl that cheated on him. He wants to replay that psychodrama and conquer it this time, and he just ends up uh unfortunately reliving it. It doesn't work. Like, winning is stepping away from the game. And I mean, even I don't think this is mutually exclusive. I mean, every run-of-the-mill narcissistic kook has their origin story. I mean, even if he is a quote run-of-the-mill narcissistic kook, he has to have a reason why he is, unless you think it's genetic, So I don't think there really is an either or thing. I think we're saying the same thing. It's just whether you care about why he. I don't know what. No, no, no. You conquer it by not playing the game at all. Like by sidestepping it, by not caring, by not stepping into the dynamic. Like if you want to go back into it this time to if you want to go into that same dynamic of the emotionally withholding person, Alfred Adler says there's a 3 neurotic responses to things. There's avoidance, surrender, and overcompensation. Now those 3 correspond to what happens in nature with what they call fight, flight, or freeze. They used to say fight or flight. Biologists updated it to fight, flight, or freeze. And if you think about it, those actually kind of correspond to what Alfred Adler said. But it's kind of coincidence. Alfred Adler wasn't saying, "Hey, this is happening in biology, fight, flight, or freeze. Let me think of the psychological equivalent." It's more like a bunch of people independently came to the same conclusion. Karen Horney, the psychologist, came to similar conclusions. She gave them different names, but what it comes down to is you can fight the problem. That's overcompensation, right? You can flight, like flee. That's avoidance. Freeze is surrender. So, for example, if someone says, "You're a this person is treating you like you're a piece of shit cuck," um, the response you could have you overcompensate is, "Fuck that! I'm gonna show I'm not a piece of shit cuck," and you might like pull out a gun on somebody and try to show out, or try to like get big muscles or whatever, and try to be the biggest baddest person in town to show you you're not a cuck. Or you can be like, you know what? I'm so afraid of it being true, whatever. I'm gonna make it true in my own terms. I'm just gonna give in and just be that. Like I'll be that. You want me to be that? I'm gonna be that. And that person like surrenders and leans into it. And then the avoidance person will be like, no, they don't think I'm a cuck. No, you're imagining it. And it's like, no, your wife is clearly. I'm not saying Will Smith is a cuck. I'm just bringing up an example of something. So you what you're saying there is, how do you conquer it? To be the one to reject it? No, because that's still a type of overcompensation. That's still in the movie War Games, Matthew Broderick comes up with the realization that trying to solve the war game just perpetuates it. The actual way to win the game is not even play. Like, don't even have any, like when that emotionally unavailable person not only is no longer even attractive to you as someone to play a game with, whether to win the game or lose the game, you just don't even not even interested in the game. But on top of that, you're not even attractive to them. That's the real key, because those type of people get attracted to people who want to people please them. And if it's mutual, like if they hold no interest or chemistry with you and vice versa, that's how you win the game. Like it's not, you're not even thinking about that 15-year-old girl that cheated on you. If your idea is like, okay, I'm gonna come up with like I used to have a dating blog like way back in the day, and then somebody wrote me and goes, "Hey, so what if I got this girlfriend and you know she always does this, and I want to know what do I say when she does this, and when she does that, what do I say back and this that?" And I'm like, "You're already lost, because if you have to think about this, even if you win the exchange and you come up with the perfect thing to say, the fact that you have to spend mental energy doing this is sending a horrible message to yourself about what you're worth. But on top of that, you've validated her behavior by trying to pass the test. You've cemented it. You've legitimized the dynamic by treating it as a test worth passing. You know what I mean? Like you can't spend all night studying for a test and then afterwards say like, I don't respect your authority to test me. Like, no, you studied for it. You can't say that now. And um yeah, attachment styles also correspond to fight, flight, or freeze, or overcompensation, um, overcompensation, avoidance. Like a bunch of different people in different venues have come up to the same thing about the three. Now, compensation is different than overcompensation. Compensation is healthy. Well, compensation is okay. Say I'm a basketball player and I have three strengths. I can dribble, I can defend, but I can't shoot. So compensation will be like I study how to shoot and I make the changes, it becomes to be a good shooter. Or I might be like, hey, I can't shoot, but since I'm good at defense and rebounding, I'm going to improve my defense and rebounding so much that it's going to make up for my lack of shooting. You know, like a Jason Kidd. Is a really great defensive guy. He doesn't need to shoot that much. Those are examples of healthy compensations. Overcompensation is different. So uh, going back to this, let's just play this real quick.
Make a choice. Like you just decide what it's going to be, who you're going to be, how you're going to do it. Just decide. And then from that point, the universe is going to get out your way. It's like it's water.
This is addict thinking.
It wants to move and go.
This is the omnipotence that comes from addiction. Addiction is chemical narcissism. Like the narcissistic supply, to an addict comes like narcissism and addiction are the same thing. Like a run-of-the-mill narcissist is addicted to narcissistic supply because it makes them like compliments, flattery because it makes them feel omnipotent. A drug addict is addicted to the chemical because the chemical gives them the same sense of omnipotence, but it's just a different drug. You know what I mean? Like you can say that narcissism is drug addiction where the drug is, flattery and, grandiosity. And you can say a drug addict is a narcissist where the narcissistic supply comes in the form of a substance, but they're both the same thing. Like you can read any book on addiction and substitute like, addict for narcissist and discussion of the substance with the word narcissist supply and it'll work perfectly. You can experiment and try it yourself, but this is I say that to say this is like addict logic, addict thinking. If you ask an unrepentant addict to describe their approach to addiction
around stuff, so for me, I want to represent possibilities. I want to represent the idea that you really can make what you want. One of my favorite books is the Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, and
he has to keep feeding himself.
I just believe that. I believe that.
But the thing is, it worked for him so far. He can't see it as luck. Like, there's a lot of people who believe this and have the same flop sweat energy and still don't get his level of success, who are more talented than him. But the worst thing that can happen to somebody with this delusional type of addict thinking is for it to actually work the first time, because now they're really going to chase it. It's like chasing the first high. It just fuels the delusion more. It would almost be better if it didn't work, but it actually did work to a spectacular level. So now he's become extra entrenched in this delusion. It's more egocentric than ever.
I can create whatever I want to create if I can put my head on it right, study it, learn the patterns, and it's hard to put into words some real metaphysical, esoteric nonsense. But I feel very strongly that we are who we choose to be.
First of all, that's not mumbo jumbo. It makes sense. Number one. Number two.
Now I'm gonna say this: what happens when you believe this about the world, but you have 5 flops? It's like your whole worldview has become destroyed. Like when it was working, you can say this, but okay, so what happened? Did you just not want it enough anymore? Or they just not believe it anymore? I thought you said just believing it can make it happen, or just studying patterns can make it happen. What happens when you become so invested in this worldview and you convince yourself it has solved all your core deficiencies? What do? You have no, like, who are you now? Like, you've made this your identity. Who are you when this doesn't work? When you say that you need a number one hit to feel like a valid human being, and you convince yourself that you can get the number one hit through sheer willpower, and that other people just don't want it enough, and you got it because you just want it more than everybody else. So what do you do now when you still want it and you're still studying patterns, but it's not working? Like, and because he never did the inner work that he needed to do.
I think sales of The Alchemist just went up.
Well,
Whatever that book is, the sales just went up on Amazon.com right about now. When that happens, I'm gonna call you and say, "Well, I went live. It really went up."
No, it's great.
No,
it's a quick read too.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you can spell alchemist.
But
It's a
there's a
Scrabble
part
word,
that I want to get
alchemist.
to
No,
in
but
this.
yeah.
Alchemist, right? Because it's great. Like, what I consider myself an alchemist. An alchemist is basically a mystical chemist, right? And one of the great feats that alchemists used to do is they would take lead, just take a chunk of lead, and they could turn lead into gold, right? So the symbolism.
Sounds like a good hustle.
I know, right?
When I leave here, get me some
Yeah, alchemists can
lead.
actually turn lead into gold, but that's
Exactly.
ooh,
But I'm
this is a
still
great
connected
connection.
to
You're right.
symbolically
You're absolutely right.
being able
Because
to turn.
this is a great point. You're right. Tom Cruise had that same demonic energy and mania. Remember that Oprah couch? Like, he has that same mania to him. And it kind of works in his Mission Impossible movies. You ever see that clip of, how he commits to the stunts and what he did to get that scene in Mission Impossible where he has to dive? I mean, it works in his work ethic, but he does have that mania.
Lead into gold.
But that level of delusion, I think, is also why Tom Cruise can be attracted to Scientology. And Will Smith's been speculated to have some kind of ties to Scientology. I don't think it's ever been confirmed, but this is magical thinking. And that's a big part of narcissism and neurosis and drug addiction is magical thinking. And when you take away a neurotic or a narcissist or a drug addict's magical thinking, it's very heinous to see. That's like what kind of withdrawal is like.
My grandmother used to say, life give you a lemon, you go ahead and make lemonade.
Absolutely.
To me, that's alchemy. That's the same concept behind the alchemist.
I'm with you on the alchemy part. The last question I think I have time to ask, maybe the last question, is whether or not
who's gonna make you leave? This your place.
Well, if you say I gotta leave, I gotta leave. That everybody can emulate.
I have this discussion with
Here we go.
friends of mine.
Right. This is the part
all the time. The only thing that I can see, and you can never really look at yourself. The only thing that I see that is distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill.
And this is the part that I think really ties into the flop sweat. Like, he knows he's not more talented than anybody else on that Fresh Prince staff. Like, they're all better actors. James Avery is a better dramatic actor. Alfonso Ribeiro is a better musician and comedian, and they're all better at whatever. But listen to what he says. He's Tavis Smiley asked him, what makes you unique from other people? And he didn't say talent. And he even points out that he feels he's not as talented as other people. He low-key just admitted it. Look.
Right. I will run.
You would not be outworked.
I will not. I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill.
Back it up a little
Distinctly different is the only thing that I see that is distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill.
So the only thing that's distinctly different about me is I'm not afraid to die on a treadmill. Not that I'm more talented. So like when you see Alfonso Ribeiro and Tatiana Ali, they're doing something that's really more talented. But he's like, yeah, you keep being more talented, but watch me die on a treadmill right now. I'm going to give 400% to this weird crying, screaming, fall on the floor, fainting thing. And that's what I'm going to do that you won't do. I'm going to embarrass myself to a degree that you won't. And what what happened is it happened to work, and it took him really far, and it just made him even more like that. But it all falls into place.
Right. I will run.
You would not be outworked.
I will not be outworked.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
You know, you might have more talent than me. You might be smarter than me. You might be sexier than me. You might be all of those things. You got it on me in 9 categories. But if we get on the treadmill together, right, there's 2 things. You're getting off first, or I'm going to die. It's really that simple, right? So,
and I used to look at this for inspiration. I think I used to even make some of his motivational speeches like that, my alarm clock thing to wake up, to get pumped up to go to the gym. But now I'm looking at it now, I'm like, this is the demonic thing I was seeing on that on those Fresh Prince clips. Like this is the church scene. This is I'm gonna die in this treadmill. I would, then let you outwork me. Like that's just magical thinking that can just overwhelm you with quantity. I could force people to love me by just going, and with the emotionally available people, that's how people think. Like people think, oh, I'm just gonna make this person love me by just being the best I can be. And then when that person, you know, doesn't love him as much as Tupac, look all these things that did Tupac can't do. It goes, yeah, but I still like Tupac more. It's like I think he's hitting a lot of walls, and that the magical thinking can only take him so far. Kind of like how drugs feel like a solution at the time, but you hit a wall that the drugs can't get you past. And now, in addition to having the same problems that you were trying to mask with drugs, you still have them. But now on top of that, you have a drug addiction. You're actually in the worst place. You have the same emotional voids, but also now you have an addiction to deal with. So what seemed like the solution has now just become one extra problem.
let's go back to the question about what if people block me out. There's going to be 2 options.
Yeah.
I'm going to get back in, or I'm going to be dead.
Yeah.
Right.
So people block me out, and this is like a prediction of his future career when he's not hitting as much anymore. It's like, say you block me out, well, fuck that, I'm getting back in no matter what. And
if people block me out, there's going to be 2 options.
You block me out, it's 2 options.
I'm going to get back in, or I'm going to be dead.
Yeah.
Right.
And that kind of scares me. Like if he does not get back into the number 1 spot, like, is it in this guy to harm himself? I think in this mania, because he's so charismatic, you're seeing mania in real time. You don't even realize you're seeing mania.
Like, you're not going to outwork me. It's such a simple, basic concept. It's the guy who is willing to hustle the most is going to be the guy that just gets that loose ball. He got 2. Oh God, he grabbed that one. That was going to be out of bounds, but he saved it back in. It's like the commodity that I see the majority of people who aren't getting the places they want or aren't achieving the things that they want in this business is strictly based on hustle. It's strictly based on being outworked. It's strictly based on missing crucial opportunities. I say
which is not true. Like most people in Hollywood are there from nepotism and they're white and genetic gifts. Like, but this is like a black conservative. This is like a kind of bootstraps.
If you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Yeah. So like when you believe this, what happens when the hits stop coming? Like think of everything I've constructed so far in this picture of Will Smith. And so anyway, I watched the whole Fresh Prince series. I watched the whole thing, and I'm like, wow, I wish I watched this as a kid, because seeing it with adult eyes, I just feel sad, and I feel scared watching this. And I don't have the nostalgia that other people have, so I just kind of felt a little weird about it, right? And I I was telling someone, I was like, you know what? I feel like this guy has to get a hit soon, because if he doesn't, he's gonna blow up. I told my friend Michael R. Jackson, I think, we're gonna hear something bad about this guy soon. And it was ironic that a couple of weeks later this happened. And I was like, damn, I was right. Like but what I did next after I watched The Fresh Prince, and I hope this doesn't cause a copyright strike, I was hoping saying fair use over and over again would somehow, do something. But anyway, when you look at the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion, right? You watch the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion, and when you watch it, um, he looks dead behind the eyes, and I feel like he's somebody in withdrawal. When you look, he just looks. He doesn't look right. Uh, Watch the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air reunion and watch the opening scenes, and he just seems like uh, he hasn't had his drug in a while, and he cannot, because he's not high off his drug, he can't maintain that mania, and there's something like hollow behind the eyes and almost kind of haggard, and it's because he's a man like in withdrawal. And I think even the fact that he's doing the special feels like a kind of defeat. Like damn. You know what that special is like to me? It's like when you're an alcoholic, and if you can't get top shelf liquor, you just start looking for whatever has alcohol in the house, and you start drinking like vanilla. Like, because there's like alcohol in that. And I felt like that's the energy I was getting from, like, I feel like if he was on top of his game, he would not be revisiting this, you know. He would not be doing TikTok videos. He would not be doing influencer stuff. Like, he's an alcoholic drinking vanilla now. Just to stay in the game. And that's like the extra addict shame when you have to like settle for like things you would normally are not like your top um source. Yeah, so he had a hit with the awards, but he burned it with a slap. It's like some Greek tragedy. That's a great way to put it. Um, yeah, John Henryism. Hey, and hit us up with donations. It always helps. Hit us up with a super chat. You can hit us up at PayPal with Champagne Sharks at Gmail, or Venmo or Cash App at Champagne Sharks. Become a subscriber at patreon.com, or just like, comment, share, subscribe, and or hit the super chat if you're enjoying the stream. But at the bottom, all the choices are there. So choose from the bottom of any way you want to support the show. But it's very, yeah. So someone said Will Smith turned on the role of Neo on The Matrix for Wild Wild West. His reasoning was that he couldn't wrap his mind around the concept and plot of the movie. Yeah, because it didn't fit into something that was already a hit that he could imitate. Like, he can't think. He has a rigid, inflexible thinking that a neurotic has. That's something about people with personality disorders. They have very rigid, thinking. Like, it didn't fit into his formula, and he couldn't understand how it could work. Yeah, it's really interesting stuff. Someone said John Henryism. That's a great way to put it. It's total John Henryism. Yeah, rise and grind mindset. But yeah, look at the scenes of the Fresh Prince reunion. I want to put him on, but there's something that just seems kind of sad in his energy, and I just feel like he's just an addict right now who's trying to take hits of vanilla or methadone patches because he can't get liquor or heroin. But with this one, unfortunately, the resolution is not good, so you don't get to see like you gotta see this in HD to see like the kind of weird energy behind his eyes, like the kind of withdrawal energy. He's like, I'm back here again. I wish I could get high off a hit, but fuck it. I have to go back to my mom's house, see if she has any vanilla in the cupboard. I'm not blowing up anymore. Like, he's trying, but it's not the same. I feel like he's trying to muster up, I think, the manic energy and act like he's happy to be there. But and I think to a degree he is happy to be there. I don't think he's making it up, but he's chasing a high, I feel. But even here, Alfonso Ribeiro steals the show. Like, this guy just popped his head in. Like, he's just... And there's little things in this where if you watch it, like, you can tell he's in awe of Alfonso Ribeiro and stuff. He even says, like, he brings back things from the show and he asks him, how did you come up with that thing where you drop to your hands and knees and crawl through the whole thing? And Alfonso was like, I don't know how I come up with the things I do. And you could tell it kind of is in his head, like he wants to know. He wants to know how, because all he can do is just muster up the mania and the work hard, but he can never feel like he can have that spontaneous gift. All he can do is just come up with a 3-factor template of movies to imitate to get #1 hits, but he can't see the diamond in the rough of a matrix that requires him to think out the box and be flexible. He can't just create something without a template the way Alfonso Ribeiro just pulled out from inside himself, things like the Carlton dance. Like, he was influenced by outside things, but he pulled out something inside to and spontaneous and something like spontaneous childlike play. He seems to be someone who never had spontaneous childlike play, and he can't really do that if that makes sense. You know what I mean? And he brings up how, like, he could never do the Carlton dance. He just couldn't get it, and it's very weird when you watch it. You can tell he's almost like studying Alfonso Ribeiro, and yeah. Alfonso wanted to be an actor. Will want to be a star. Yeah, that's a great point. Okay. Well, that's enough about that. The other thing I wanted to Dylan Gray said, gotta tap out. Too much Will Smith. Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, we're done. I don't know if you're still around, but I'm done with the Will Smith. The other thing I want to say is, you guys see what happened with Black Lives Matter. I thought this was crazy. A story came out in New York Magazine where Black Lives Matter was revealed to have bought a new $6 million house. And yeah. So they bought a new $6 million house, and they were trying to. There's internal memos leaked where they were trying to silence their critics, and they were hiring private investigators to dig up dirt on people online. I would love to know if we were on that list, because we've been saying stuff about them for a while, and I know they know about our videos. So I wonder if they were hiring people to look into, like, people in Champagne Sharks, but including the author of the first anti-Black Lives Matter New York article. They were trying to find dirt on him, and this was leaked out, and they were saying how they had to suppress people talking about all this and everything. And what was funny is, so this new one came out, and this one's even more damaging, and it got way more traction. And it's pretty funny, but BLM. Someone said, and I can't take credit for this. Buying large mansions is what BLM stands for now. And in the video, what they said, no, I haven't seen this yet, but I have seen some people like hanging outside the building, look kind of shady in a car. I don't know if that's the detectives, but um, so they did this thing where they were trying all this stuff, and they had a $6 million house, and they included the $6 million house in one of their YouTube videos. And apparently, the point of the $6 million house was to become like this kind of influencer house, basically a TikTok house for social justice, like a new woke influencer house. And they kept bringing up stuff like, none of us actually live here. We did this to create like a safe space for black and brown queer artists and everything. And I'm like, that's worse. Like, I could almost respect it if you moved your whole family into the mansion, but you mean to tell me like you took $90 million from people you didn't like disclose that it's supposed to go to um because of George Floyd, and it's supposed to go like victims and causes, and you did it to create a TikTok house, like a social justice TikTok house? That's like even worse. But it kind of shows like for these people, they really think the point of activism is to get attention and to get centered, especially the right identities. Like like these people are such dummies. They can't even realize that it's a bad look to say that. They don't even realize that you're not supposed to say that. Uh, like they these are the people. These are the people, and this is the kind of logic that leads to people saying stuff like black men have privilege because when they die, they get hashtags after them. And it's like, wait a minute, they're dead. That's not a privilege. Like, you're so in love with attention. You think that somebody who got attention for dying has actually got one up on you because they got the attention. You know, like your priorities are like, I'm sure that person would rather be alive and not have attention than be dead and have attention, but you're just um that sick with it. So she posted this on Instagram, and it's a slideshow. It's really long, and this is what she posted. Yesterday's article in New York Magazine is a despicable abuse of a platform that's intended to provide truthful information to the public. Okay. Journalism is supposed to mitigate harm and inform our communities. The fact that a reputable publication would allow a reporter with a proven and very public bias against me and other black leaders, and that guy is not biased against her. He just his if anyone's biased, it's all the people who were ignoring all this stuff in plain sight. You know what I mean? Like, how long have we been talking about this on this channel? It's going on 2 years now, and I'm not some super detective. I just use Google. You know, um like a journalist actually doing their job, like they feel so entitled to special treatment. Like, when you see how bad their money laundering is, you realize they're not even talented grifters. They're just fortunate to have an environment where people were treating them with kid gloves, and now that they're getting even the least bit of competent fact finding being done against them, they're just imploding and just giving these childish tantrums. Like, you're not supposed to ask us questions. We're queer black women. Uh, right wing talking points. Blah blah blah. And you start realizing, like, these people are incompetents who are propped up by a mix of things, like a black misleadership class of blue checks who were hoping to get put on by them if they signal boosted them, and who wanted to be America's next top grifter. White people who wanted to platform people who made them feel good but were an actual threat to the system, and who asked nothing of them as white people that required sacrifice. But yeah, it was just a perfect storm of just enablers that kept these people up. But the fact that a reputable publication would allow a reporter with a proven and very public bias against me and other black leaders to write a piece filled with misinformation, innuendo, and incendiary opinions is disheartening and unacceptable. But she never says what's not true. To clarify again, the property the reporter addressed was purchased in 2020 as a space where those within the Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation and broader movement community could work create content, host meetings, and foster creativity. How is that a good thing? How is that any better? Like, it's a TikTok house. It's a $6 million TikTok house. Like, the fact that you think this is supposed to be okay. Oh, you did it to, create content and get more attention. Oh, okay, that's good. Like, you've lost the plot. You're really delusional. Like, you don't even know what you're supposed to be doing. So you can't even formulate a good lie or bullshit. Like, that's like you trying to defend yourself from crimes of pedophilia, but you missed like the key part that you're not supposed to have sex with kids. So you're sitting there saying, no, that 12-year-old gave me consent, and you're like dying on that hill. It's like, no, wait a minute, you're not supposed to fuck a kid. Like, this is that level of missing the point, you know? It was purchased to be a safe space for Black people in the community. What community? Can regular Black people just show up there? Or do you mean the community of, blue checks? Like what does that mean? And why is that what people are donating money after George Floyd for? Like, man, George Floyd died, Breonna Taylor died, police brutality. We gotta make sure that these blue checks have a house to create content. We need that community to be taken care of. It's like trickle up activism. It's like when like years ago when online a lot of us asked like blue checks and social justice influencers, what has Black Lives Matter accomplished at all? And people would seriously respond to us, Oscar's so white. And it's like, wait a minute, support Black people die on the street, and then the win is rich Black people get Oscars. That's trickle up activism. That's the opposite of what activism is, and they think it's normal. So that's what she's saying. Like, yeah, those funds that were given for Black Lives Matter, they went to help our community um of what they call it, multi hyphenates, create content. And she thinks that's supposed to be something that's supposed to be make people say, oh, in that case, silly us. The reason it wasn't announced prior is not nefarious as the headline infers. Um, she means implies, but I guess you could say it inferred. I don't know. The property needed repairs and renovations. Okay, what does that have to do with anything? Like, okay, so you didn't disclose a TikTok house because it needed renovations. How is that any better? You shouldn't have the TikTok house, period, whether it needs renovations or not. You know what I mean? And also, how much does renovations cost? You spent $6 million for an unrenovated house. So, how many more millions do you spend renovating it? I do not own the property, have never lived there, and made that clear to the reporter. Okay, it doesn't matter that you never lived there. That's not the point. Like I said, I'd almost respect it more if you lived there. And for people who always talk about accountability, especially when it's time to bash straight Black men, uh, there's a total lack of accountability here. Uh, While I always see myself as a part of the BLM community, I am no longer in leadership, and I am not a part of any decision-making processes within the foundation. I have never misappropriated funds, and it pains me so many people have accepted a narrative without the presence of tangible truth or facts. Nevertheless, this will be made clear upon the release of the BLM 990s. Um, to those within our movement who have looked to me for leadership, I'm sorry. Yeah, she didn't say I'm sorry for doing anything wrong, even if it's even if the wrong thing is not being transparent. Like, say you didn't do anything wrong as far as misappropriating funds. You did something wrong in not being transparent and giving the proof that would have dispelled this a long time ago. If we were just transparent all along, this wouldn't have happened. So that's like a incompetence and negligence on your part. But even that's too much accountability. She can't account for the negligent. She can't account for the active wrongdoing, but she also can't account for or take accountability for the fact that she contributed to this by being sloppy and lacking transparency in how she ran the thing. No, she goes, I'm sorry yet to engage with this kind of hateful and erroneous content. I'm sorry for the reporter making you feel bad. Like, that's like, uh, I'm sorry if you took it the wrong way. It's one of those type of backhanded apologies. I admittedly have not always responded, and I know my silence has contributed to doubt. I apologize if it has caused you harm of any kind. I apologize if it hurt your feelings, not for what I said. But I'm asking you all to understand the enormous pressure and fear that comes with living under the constant threat of white supremacist terror and real threats on my life and those of people I love. So she always talks about, first off, if you're so afraid of white supremacist terror that you can't do your freaking job, then you're not supposed to be an activist. That's like number one thing on the job. But I'm no longer letting fear hold me back from calling out these attacks. And it's like none of you have been touched yet. There's been like 5 or 6 people from Ferguson, black male activists who have been killed. None of you have been touched yet. All you guys do is get media and book deals. Like, stop it. You know? Um, yeah, it's like amazing. The bias is real. When it's Sean King, these people coordinate hitting him up on social media with deadly precision. When it's BLM and its figureheads, it's critics. And that's true. That's why I always said I don't defend Sean King, but I'm not going to signal boost these people attacking him when they're hanging out with BLM. They're only mad because they're just mad like another that the Crips of grifting uh, is winning, and they're down with the Bloods of grifting. You know what I mean? Um, Yeah, journalism is supposed to mitigate harm. Yeah, basically. But I see these people, they think journalists are there to signal boost them. Because honestly, nowadays that's what journalism does do. Journalism is just basically to hold their hands and be their press agents. So I don't blame them for thinking that journalism is supposed to mitigate harm because that's how journalists act nowadays. You know? Uh, yeah, so it's crazy. It's nuts that they think that that's what journalism is supposed to do. They're so used to that. They're so used to that special treatment, and that's also why they can't actually respond well because they're like Kenny says, they're like the kid who wants to play Nintendo, but they're like dumb and they gave them a controller with no that's not plugged in and let them think that they're playing and so they start thinking they're actually good at media and they're really not, you know. Journalism is when I can add your link to my CV. Yeah, yeah, so this is bigger than me. This is about a long history of attacking black people and black women specifically. And it's like even now you're still disaggregating black women. And it's like right now you need all the help you can get. Like stop playing these divide games. Even now, when everyone's against you, you're like black women, but also black women specifically, not black men. You know, we're the ones specifically being harmed. Like at this point, get every piece of sympathy you can. Like, why are you even still playing these dumb games? Creating unsafe conditions for us and our families, scrutinizing our every move publicly and privately in ways that are unfair and unjust. Okay. It's dangerous, and we should all be trying to stop it, interrupt it, protest it. Um, and she keeps going on and on. I'm not going to read it. There's just total word salad. I understand some of the concerns and critiques coming from within and outside of our movement. Which ones? You never say which concerns and critiques are valid in all these months. This is the thing you say at the end as a disclaimer. This is like when someone says "no offense, but" or "just my opinion" and says something fucked up. Like this is just something that she just says. You know, just because she knows she's supposed to say it. I understand some of the concerns and critiques coming from within and outside our movement. No community organizer is above criticism. In fact, I am grateful for it. What criticism am I grateful for? You've not accepted any. But what is happening to me is not about accountability or healing. Why don't you ever talk about restitution? Apparently, it's not an option. Like everything's about feelings and how it makes you feel. It's about destroying my life and destroying a powerful movement. What makes the movement powerful? What have you accomplished? Like you weren't even good at the TikTok house. They apparently made only one video in 17 months. So even at not only did they give a stupid cover reason for the house, that's actually worse than the reason that they're distracting from. Like, oh, we didn't actually live in it. It was a content house. You weren't even good at doing it as a content house. So like what was this place? You know? Yeah, so I think that's despicable. But check out New York Magazine and look up the article. It's a doozy, and there are still people in their circles caping for them. It's kind of crazy. There's blue checks left and right, plain dumb, and trying to make excuses. And I'll give one last thing, and this will be where we will end it. But yeah, so it's not just that they're money launderers. They're not even smart money launderers. They're like money launderers where everybody was in their corner and on their side, like, you know. But check this out. So this is the last thing I want to say. We're going to end it. This woman, I can't believe people more made a video to address grifting at a house that they bought to the same grift. Was the video about addressing their grifting? Because that's too funny. I didn't know what the video was about. I assumed it was just about, you know, some more eat, pray, protest crap where they just talk about, you know, feelings and buzzwords. But I didn't know it was actually about. If this is true, that is very funny that they um, addressed grifting with the house that they got through the same grift that they're being criticized for. Um, if you want to check out the other shows on the Call-in apps on a different app, check out the description. It should be in the description, but if for some reason it's not working, a link to the show Media Masochists should be on there. It's a call-in show where and everyone who's in this room or is watching this video should sign up for the call-in app. You go to um, the Apple Store or the Android Store or the Google Store, search for call-in, one word, CALLIN. Or if you're on the desktop, go to callin.com and search for Media Masochist, and then it'll make you create an account and follow us there. If you follow Media Masochist on callin.com, you will get notified when so real quick I'll show you. Yes, it's available for Android now, and you can use it to a limited degree on the desktop. So this is how it looks. Yeah, so it's a spin-off show we have where we discuss media. We take calls, so you don't have to just be in a chat room. You can, and these are some of the things that we had and are coming up. So we're talking about season 2 of Euphoria on Thursday. We had an episode about the Chris Rock Will Smith. I was very proud of this title. Chris Rock got some fresh prints across the face. I'm gonna I'm feeling myself. I'm gonna shout myself out on that. And we did his new black comedy, just white comedy and blackface, Jussie Smollett sentencing, West Wing, Ukraine crisis, mental health check, the new Bel-Air show, Joe Rogan. And we talked about the original Black Lives Matter. The person who wrote the New York Magazine article, we had them on Media Masochists. We had a call-in show with them. So yeah, so that was pretty good. It was Sean Campbell. We had him on to discuss his article. So definitely check it out. Or just search Media Masochist in Google. You should be able to find it. Oh yeah, you can only listen on the desktop, but you need Android or iTunes to actually call in. And also, Media Masochist is now available as a regular podcast, so you can search for it in Apple or your podcast server, and you can find the show as a regular podcast. So you can get an RSS feed and find it like that. But anyway, this is the final thing I wanted to share. I just stopped to talk about that, but let's get back to what I want to talk about. This woman, a blue check, I saw Sandy Hudson. And her bio says from YYC, the Screwface Capital. I don't know what that means. It's probably abbreviation for a place. And her bio says Black Lives Matter Canada, organizer, um, Sandy and No Lore Talk politics co-host. So okay, so she's Black Lives Matter Canada. She's an organizer. She co-hosts a podcast called Sandy and Nora Talk Politics, and she gives a link to Black Lives Matter Canada. So she's hardly an unbiased source. And she writes this: I am truly horrified at how easily some can move from touting anti-carceral principles to proliferating right-wing articles. And Sean Campbell and New York Magazine are not right-wing, like, but they got to say anything with highly visible activist addresses in them. And I don't think the address was in the New York Magazine article, but whatever. Endangering them, their children, and their entire families. Yes, I'm talking about Patrisse Cullors, one of 14. So it's long. I'm not going to read the whole thread. Over the last few days, I watched with horror as a right-wing news article riddled with lies began its ascent from 4chan to Reddit to Twitter to Fox News to the pages of the New York Post. But notice she doesn't name where the original article appeared, because then she had to say New York Magazine, in which case she'd have to admit that it's not a right-wing source. So, yes, New York Post and Fox News linked to the article, and she's using that to pretend like it's a right-wing smear job, but the original article is not from a right-wing source. But she leaves out New York Magazine to kind of lie by omission. Thank you for the donation, Cherries. Don't let Cherries upstage you guys. Definitely support us in one of the ways in the scrolling on the bottom of the screen. But yeah, people say anything these days. She goes, from there, I watched as right-wing accounts leverage legitimate critiques of BLM. And again, why are these legitimate critiques? And why don't you talk about them? But they never want to say what they are. There's legitimate critiques out there somewhere, but we're never going to say what they are or address the legitimate critiques. We're just going to keep saying about these supposedly illegitimate ones that we can't explain. Then she goes this: let's be clear on what's happening here. Regardless of the fact that Patrisse is widely known not only for her activism, but as a best-selling author, a documentarian who has appeared at Sundance, a performance artist, a professor, a writer, and a professional speaker, it's easier for some of y'all to believe that this woman is engaged in corruption through BLM than to believe that she has her own bag. And it's like, none of this stuff. She's like an adjunct professor. That doesn't get you 4 houses plus a $6 million one. Like, get out of here. But even if best case scenario, all this shit you describe, say all of it combined, is how she got this house. She got all of it off of the backs of dead black men and a few dead black women. And she got it off of BLM. They would not be giving her this Warner overall deal. They would not be giving her a book deal. They would not give her a documentary. She would not be performing performance art. She would not be a professor at USC, which I think is where it is. And she wrote writer, which is a repeat of author. She doesn't just pad it to make it sound like she has more going on than she does. She put author and writer. That's slick. And professional speaker. When does she speak about as a professional speaker? Black Lives Matter. What does she write about? Black Lives Matter and activism. What is a performance art? It's about being an activist. So, like, no, she got it from $90 million plus dollars of donations. But even if she didn't, she still got that bag from BLM, and she never accounted for any of the money or gave any of it back to the community. And, I honestly have a hard time believing that some of you who I know who have made these critiques have the same level of scrutiny for lighter, thinner, straighter, male visible figures among us. That's about Sean King. She's like, you're supposed to be talking about Sean King. But it's like, why? There's actually, honestly, more proof of them grifting than Sean King. That's the irony of it. The Sean King case is not as strong as this. I've looked at it. This is like 50 times stronger than the Sean King case. That is the real, but you're not supposed to scrutinize them as much as Sean King. You're supposed to scrutinize Sean King more. Why? They don't say because there's more damning proof or anything. No, because let me highlight it here. He's lighter, thinner, straighter, and male. Like, this is how sick these people are. Like, the aesthetics are supposed to be why you're supposed to look at Sean King more, not the merits of the case or anything. Lighter, thinner, straighter, male. You should be coming at Sean King for that. That is too funny. Oh, I didn't see this, but this sounds interesting. For a 4 girl said the most insane stuff with BLM, implying this is happening because they don't know how to over. Was you saying as a defense of them? Like, like it's not their fault. They don't know how to, because that's crazy if you're running something like that with that much money. I mean, when you have $90 million, some of that money can go to hiring somebody who knows how to handle funds. Like accountants don't cost more than $90 million. If you have house, it's a lot easier to hire an accountant than to buy a $6 million house. And this gets better. She goes, so she's going on, and then she goes into the death threats thing. Patrice and her family have received death threats to their homes as a result of this. Patrice, her child, and other members of her family have had to flee their homes. Well, that's sad, but it doesn't entitle you to not account for $90 million or to get a $6 million house. You know, like, it's a great way to not get death threats about using donation money to buy a house. Like, don't buy a house with donation money where you don't disclose where the money went. Um, Patrice will not be the last of us that they come for, and I will not let my public engagement only occur in regret after the occurrence of some irrevocable harm. No one's coming after them. Like, stop it. The powers that be aren't coming after them. Like, they're the best agents that they've ever had. But this is where it gets really good. So I looked up this woman, and this is the crazy part. I looked up this woman, and check this out. Are you guys still with me? Um, Check this out. I looked up this woman and saw this. And I retweeted. I says, "Is this you?" The breakdown. University of Toronto SU lawsuit against former executive director Sandy Hudson. This is from July 2017. In September 2015, the University of Toronto Student Union began a lawsuit against its former president, Yolan Bolo Kamara, former vice president, Internal and Services Cameron Wathi, and former executive director, Sandra Hudson. Since then, the story has taken a number of twists and turns. The legal history. The original statement of the claim provided by UTSU alleges that Bolo Kamara and Wathi had, quote, breached their fiduciary duty, unquote, by authorizing 2,589.5 hours of overtime pay for Hudson, and that the three of them had, quote, conspired to commit civil fraud, unquote, and that their actions, quote, constituted civil fraud, as the authorization of Hudson's overtime pay entitled her to $247,726,040 as part of her severance package, despite the fact that Hudson had never claimed any overtime hours in the time she worked there. So she tried to scam $250,000 from the University of Toronto Student Union by claiming to have worked 2,600 hours of overtime that entitled her to incentive pay in her severance, despite the fact that while she was working there, she never actively claimed to have ever done. The claim also asked for $200,000 from the defendants for punitive damages. Hudson's position as executive director of the University of Toronto Student Union was terminated in April 2015. So yeah, she got she was terminated in 2015, around the time that Bolo Kamara and Wathi's terms as executives were coming to a close. So she was terminated in 2015, around the time that her two friends' terms as executives were coming to a close. So these two outgoing friends who were executives, as one of their final acts on the way out, authorized $2,600 hours of overtime pay for this woman that ended up entitling her to $250,000 as part of this severance package. That's some incredible scamming. And I'm like, if I had done something like that, the last thing I would do is open my mouth. about this Black Lives Matter thing. Like, I would just sit the hell down. And it just shows how shameless these people are. Like, I couldn't believe when I Googled her name and I found that. And I was like, oh, well, no wonder you're defending these people. You're a scammer too. And I would think the last thing you'd want to do with this on your record, with this being one of the things that comes up in a Google search of you, the last thing you think you'd want to do is be seen. You know, that's like, you know, Woody Allen coming out and saying, hey, you know, I want to do a movie defending R. Kelly. Like, no, that's the last thing you'd want to do. You know what I'm saying? Crazy. Yeah, it's crazy. Like, the last thing you'd want to do is pipe up like that. That's freaking nuts. But that shows you like who we're dealing with. And there's a bunch of people in her replies supporting her, and you know, yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. That's the last thing I wanted to show. I just thought that was the funniest thing. That is the craziest thing. Like, to see like the kind of people sticking up for her, and just the sheer shamelessness of these blue checks. Like someone who scammed 250,000 from a student union. You know, you're not even scamming like big corporations. You're scamming student unions. Is going to come in here and lecture us like the moral authority. You know, like, and defend people from charges of scamming. That's nuts. Yeah. Whew. Who checks the blue checks? Yeah, this is the new Watchmen. Yeah, who checks the blue checks? I guess we do. And when I say we, I mean you guys. I appreciate all your support. It's your support that allows us to do this. And, you know, continue to support us by liking, sharing these videos, by doing donations, by contributing to the show financially, by subscribing to the Patreon, by sharing it with your friends. All of it helps. And yeah, also, like I said, go to callin.com, follow Media Masochists, become a follower there. I think there's a link in the description that you can use. But we have like 60 people live watching, so there's no reason why we shouldn't have 60 people signing up tonight. Well, not 60, because some of you already signed up for Media Masochists. But there's no reason why everyone watching tonight who is not already subscribed to Media Masochists should not subscribe, you know, by the end of the night, because we're doing a lot of good stuff over there too. And you're able to call in and voice your opinion. So definitely do that. Everybody have a good night. Take care. Be good.